Welcome into today's edition of Just the Truth. Glad to have you join me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time in 2024, visit myphdweightloss.com. A lot to cover today. The House and Senate negotiators reached an agreement on a government funding top line Sunday, taking a critical step towards avoiding a shutdown later this month. We've had this conversation many times in the past. I'm not so sure a government shutdown is a bad thing. We'll talk about it. President Joe Biden is going to be visiting Charleston, South Carolina today. Biden will be at the Mother Emmanual Church where non-black church members were shot by a self-described white supremacist. Also, Vice President Kamala Harris was in Myrtle Beach over the weekend on the anniversary of the January 6th Capitol protest. We have all the details on her visit as well. And with just weeks until the Iowa caucus and the New Hampshire primary, all eyes are on 2024 Republican presidential hopeful Nikki Haley as she aims to break former President Donald Trump's grip on GOP voters. But recent polling suggests she still faces pretty much an uphill battle to get the party's nomination. We have some of the polling to share with you today as well. And does it bother you to know that the Secretary of Defense was hospitalized most of last week for nearly 5 days, and we didn't know it? And it doesn't appear that his boss knew it either. How does that happen? How does the President of the United States not know that his Secretary of Defense is in the hospital? And what's it like to take a road trip in an electric vehicle? Jeff Flock with Fox Business put Joe Biden's electric vehicle hype to the test, embarking on an 800-mile trip in a Tesla last Tuesday from Chicago to New York, documenting each charge along the way. We'll share that with you as well.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
President Joe Biden will be visiting Charleston today with he'll be visiting the Mother Emmanual Church where, as we know, sadly, 9 black church members were shot by Dylan Roof, the white supremacist. The visit is to highlight the importance of preserving democratic institutions to combat hate and extremism, according to the White House. Biden's visit is also being viewed as a way to reconnect with black voters whose support for him seems to be waning in some key battleground states like Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Governor, according to the New York Times and a Siena College poll. Charleston County Democrat Party Chairman Sam Scardon said Biden's visit was a strong metaphor for the choice that voters face in 2024, saying, quote, between Donald Trump, who is facing criminal charges for violently rejecting the results of a Democratic election, and President Biden, who is working to expand voting rights and strengthening our Democrat institutions, Scardon said this was a clear choice in an email he sent. Now, he's, I guess, forgetting that Joe Biden is under investigation as well. I guess he's forgetting that Joe Biden is being accused of pay for play, if you will. Now, the only Democrat congressman from South Carolina, Representative James Clyburn, told CNN's Jake Tapper on CNN that Donald Trump is partially responsible for the shootings in Charleston. Here's the conversation with James Clyburn.
Congressman Clyburn, thanks for joining us. So let's start with President Biden's trip tomorrow to historic Mother Emmanuel AME Church. What are you hoping to hear from President Biden? And is it fair to tie in any way what happened at the Emmanuel AME Church to Donald Trump? Donald Trump had barely launched his campaign when that attack happened.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Jake. I think it is very clear that Donald Trump's utterances way back before Charlottesville, or at the time of Charlottesville, ties him to what happened at Mother Emmanuel. The fact of the matter is that young man went into that church's basement, joined with those worshipers in Bible study, and murdered them. And he said at the time that he was attempting to create a race war. But the people of Charleston, South Carolina, the families of the affected victims, all came together to get beyond hate and reach out to help continue this pursuit of a more perfect union. Donald Trump looked at those people in Charlottesville and said that there were good people on both sides, and those people were uttering things like, Jews will not replace us. That is a religion. The AME Church, Emmanuel, that is religion. And Donald Trump has said things in support of those activities that ties him closely to what happened at Mother Emmanual.
Also, Tapper asked Mr. Clyburn about Joe Biden's poor performance in polls and if he's concerned that black voters will stay at home in November and not return to the polls and support Joe Biden's reelection. Congressman Clyburn claims that Biden has kept all of his promises, with the exception of just a couple, he said, and that he deserves reelection, and blames the media and MAGA Republicans for focusing on things that Biden has not been able to accomplish because of GOP opposition.
The Washington Post reports that former President Obama met for a private lunch with President Biden recently to express concern about how Biden is managing his reelection bid. This comes as President Biden is struggling to solidify support among black voters, including on that trip to South Carolina. Obviously, you were instrumental in Biden getting the Democratic nomination. Obviously, black voters were instrumental in President Biden getting, then Senator Biden, or then Vice President Biden, getting the nomination in 2020. How worried are you about black voters showing up for President Biden in November?
Well, I'm not worried. I'm very concerned, and I have sat down with President Biden. I don't know. I saw those reports. I've also seen at least one report indicating that I have sat down with President Biden, and I did. With him, and I've told him what my concerns are. I have no problem with the Biden administration and what it has done. My problem is that we have not been able to break through that MAGA wall in order to get to people exactly what this president has done. If you took the little simple thing as student loan debt relief, he promised to relieve student loan debt, and he has done that. But one part of his promise he was not able to keep because 6 Republican attorneys general and the United States Supreme Court with 6-3 vote stopped him from doing so. But he sought another way, and he has forgiven $132 billion to 3.4 million people in student loan debt. But nobody writes about that. Nobody talks about that. I'm still hearing from people as recent as yesterday that he did not keep his promise on student loan debt relief, and he has. 80% of what he said he would do, he has done and is continuing to do it, and people don't focus on that. They only focus on that 20% affected by that court decision rather than what he did to get beyond the court decision. He's done the same thing when it comes to the judiciary. He stood right across from Emmanuel Church and said, if given the opportunity, he would put an African-American woman on the Supreme Court. He has done that. But he went even further and put a South Carolinian African-American woman on the second highest court of the land, a South Carolinian African-American woman on the 4th Circuit Court of Appeals. He has appointed more African-American women to the courts of appeal than all previous presidents combined. And that is a fact. And if you go through each one of his pieces of legislation, look at the Inflation Reduction Act. He has reduced the cost of medical care, capped insulin at $35 a month. I know what insulin was costing a month. My late wife died from diabetes. $800 a month she was paying for insulin. So this president is keeping his promises, but people keep focusing on the one or two things he did not get accomplished. No, we didn't do what we wanted to do with the John Lewis Voter Education and Advancement Act. But we are going to keep working until we get it done.
Yeah, I'm sure you will there, Congressman. University of South Carolina Professor Todd Shaw, who's an expert in African-American politics, characterized Biden's visit to Charleston today as a necessary move to reintroduce his campaign. Shaw said, I think he's going to have to demonstrate why black voters should mobilize, given that there's some real genuine softness in his numbers, adding that several black voters who supported Biden in 2020 presumably did so thinking that they were voting for a transitional president. Now, before Biden's South Carolina visit, he gave a scathing speech in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, on the eve of the third anniversary of the January 6th protest, and cast former President Donald Trump as an autocratic leader on the path of endangering American values, he said, and himself as the protector of democracy. Does anyone really think that Joe Biden is the protector of democracy? USA Today wrote over the weekend, Biden staffers on his campaign team have said that anti-immigrant and racially charged comments were evidence of the GOP's flirtation with white supremacy. So I guess you're a white supremacist if you don't appreciate your country being invaded from the southern border. I guess you're a white supremacist if you're critical of Joe Biden because he's allowed our border to remain open. South Carolina, of course, has always been viewed as an asset to Biden's campaign. It's been given credit as reviving his campaign in 2020. Joe Biden was sort of dead in the water. He came to South Carolina. Congressman Clyburn took him around the state. He was able to win the South Carolina primary. And as a result of that, the Democrat National Convention has made South Carolina the primary launching pad, seeing how the state and its black voter base truly revive Biden's chances in 2020. Of course, New Hampshire's not very happy with that because traditionally New Hampshire and historically New Hampshire has been the first primary, and they're going to still be the first primary. It's just the Democrats are not going to recognize their vote. Again, also in South Carolina this past weekend, Vice President Kamala Harris, she visited the 7th Episcopal District AME Church Women's Missionary Society, their annual retreat in Myrtle Beach on January the 6th, and is also scheduled to headline the NAACP's annual King Day at the Dome event on January 15th on MLK Day. The significance of the event is key as it begins as a protest to the State House Confederate flag. Well, it looks like once again we have avoided another government shutdown. Is that good or bad? I never really know. Here's the deal. House and Senate negotiators reached an agreement on a government funding top-line bill yesterday, taking what is being called a critical step toward avoiding a shutdown later this month. The bipartisan deal will set the federal government's discretionary spending at a maximum level of $1.59 trillion, Speaker Mike Johnson wrote in a letter to his colleagues. It would also include $886 billion for defense and $704 billion for non-defense spending, according to Speaker Johnson. The $1.5 trillion figure was part of an agreement mandated by the Fiscal Responsibility Act last year, a compromise that was reached during the debt limit talks between Joe Biden and then Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Democrat leaders said that the final top line would also include an additional $69 billion in non-defense discretionary spending that was part of a McCarthy and Biden side deal at the time. That would bring the total to roughly $1.66 trillion. And you may remember this is partly of why McCarthy lost the speakership last year as well. Speaker Johnson suggested that the Sunday agreement would see some additional cuts to discretionary spending to offset some of the side deals. In a statement, he said, as has been widely reported, a little of extra statutory adjustments was agreed upon by negotiators last summer. The agreement today achieves key modifications to the June framework that will secure more than $16 billion in additional spending cuts to offset the discretionary spending level, he said. Speaker Johnson conceded that, quote, these final spending levels will not satisfy everyone. You think? He said they do not cut as much spending as many of us would like, but added his deal does provide a path to, number one, move the process forward, two, reprioritize funding within the top line towards conservative objectives instead of last year's Schumer-Pelosi omnibus, and number three, he said, fight for the important policy riders included in our House fiscal year 24 bills. Why do you think it is that our U.S. Congress, our Republican-led U.S. House, cannot get spending under control? What are they afraid of? Democrats also took a victory lap because they feel like it's a good deal too. And if they're taking a victory lap, if you have Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries releasing a statement yesterday, as they did, claiming that the agreement, quote, clears the way for Congress to act over the next few weeks in order to maintain important funding priorities, if they think it's a success, it can't be that good for us. There still will be a showdown looming on the horizon. Speaker Johnson made it clear that he still wants conservative policy riders included in the final spending agreement. Schumer and Jeffries took a shot at Johnson's effort in their statement, saying, we've made clear to the Speaker that Democrats will not support including poison pill policy changes in any of the 12 appropriation bills put before the Congress. President Biden took a similar hostile posture toward House Republicans in a statement that he released, saying congressional Republicans must do their job, stop threatening to shut down the government, and fulfill their basic responsibility to fund critical domestic and national security priorities, including my supplemental request. It's time for them to act, the president demanded. Current government funding levels expire on January the 19th, with remaining agencies and offices funded through February the 2nd. Meanwhile, a growing contingent of GOP hardliners is calling on House Republican leaders to block government funding progress altogether until Democrats make conservative policy concessions to deal with the border crisis. I just wish they would stick to their guns on this. Hold them accountable. 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. You're welcome to send your comments to the Furman Ford text line. You can leave me a voice message as well. Your emails are always welcome at joey@joeyhudson.com. You know, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses, businesses who are owned by people who live here in the upstate. Just take a look around. Corporations have never been more powerful. New technologies like AI are changing the game even more. That's why you need to support our local businesses that are built and run by people right here in our community. Businesses like Furman Ford. When it comes to getting your next vehicle, I choose Furman Ford at Lawrence. They do business the right way. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line. That means when you stop in, give them a call or you send them an email, you always have access to a member of the Furman family. They'll help you navigate the great deals they have on some of their selection of pre-owned vehicles. And what's even better, when you drive your new vehicle off the lot, you know that your money is staying right here and supporting the communities you love most. For all around better buying experience, visit my friends at Furman Ford in Lawrence. Find them online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. Again, that's furmanford.com, and I welcome Furman Ford as the sponsor of our text line. You're welcome to text the Furman Ford text line. Over in the GOP presidential primary, with just a week or so from the Iowa caucus and the New Hampshire primary, all eyes are on 2024 Republican presidential hopeful and former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, as she appears to be aiming to break former President Donald Trump's grip on GOP voters. But recent polling suggests that she still has a pretty uphill battle to get the party nomination. Haley, of course, was Trump's former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. She has emerged in recent weeks as one of the biggest competitors to Trump in the Republican field. She's gotten key endorsements from a conservative political advocacy group that's pumped millions of dollars into her campaign, billionaire brothers Charles Koch and the late David Koch, New Hampshire's GOP governor Chris Sununu. Her campaign's given anti-Trump Republicans renewed hope that the former president could be toppled. Not so fast, though. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis remains in the running. His campaign has floundered a bit as Haley appears to be ascending in the polls. Trump clearly has taken notice because he's ramped up his attack against Haley ahead of the Iowa caucuses coming up just a week now, January 15th, and then the New Hampshire primaries on January 23rd. Despite the hype and the extra attention from Trump, Haley continues to trail the former president in recent polls out of a number of different surveys in both of these states. Here's a look at where things stand with less than 10 days until Iowa. And remember, Iowa is caucuses, and then just about 2 weeks until the New Hampshire cast their primary ballots. Haley's made some gains, but she still is well behind President Donald Trump. Here's some of the numbers. Polling conducted by Insider Advantage, these were done back in mid-December, showed that Haley had 17%, whereas Trump was backed by 49% of respondents. DeSantis tied Haley with that poll with 17% as well. The survey included 850 likely Iowa caucus goers with a margin of error of plus or minus 4.3%. Another survey carried out by Beacon Research, Shaw and Company Research, they did their poll for Fox Business, showed Trump at 52% and Haley with a mere 16%. DeSantis remained narrowly ahead of Haley in that survey with 18%. Emerson College, another one. Similar results. Trump was backed by 50% of respondents, whereas Haley had the support of 17%, DeSantis supported by 15%. Haley appears to be doing a bit better in the Granite State of New Hampshire. Of course, she received the endorsement from New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu. There, she is within striking distance of Trump. Her allies say that even with a second place finish in Iowa, they are hoping that momentum could push her across the finish line with a win in New Hampshire. The most recent poll out of New Hampshire shows Haley down by just 4 points in that survey by American Research Group. Our former South Carolina governor had the support of 33% of respondents to Trump's 37%, just a 4% difference, and that's a pretty big difference. That's a pretty big gain for Nikki Haley. A previous survey carried out by American Research Group showed Haley down by about 4 points. Trump was backed by 33%, and his former UN ambassador had 29%. However, Trump was ahead of Haley by double digits in a poll by St. Anselm College Survey Center. The former president was supported by 44%, with Haley's 30%. So, look, we all know how polls are. You rise and you fall. Except in Trump's case, he has consistently led by double digits. And it doesn't matter how much attention Haley has received in recent weeks, the polling data shows that Trump remains the most likely GOP candidate to win in Iowa and in New Hampshire. We'll see. Stephen Chung, the Trump spokesperson, called recent New Hampshire polling garbage and said that Trump would beat Haley in comments to Newsweek, who was writing an article at the same time. He said, "It means any reporter who actually believes this garbage poll will lose all credibility once President Trump crushes the competition." Now, for her part, you remember Haley appeared to suggest that she doesn't expect to win in Iowa during some remarks in New Hampshire last week, when she kind of got in a bit of hot water when she suggested that Iowa caucus goers would make a mistake and that those in New Hampshire would correct it.
We have an opportunity to get this right. And I know we'll get it right. And I trust you. I trust every single one of you. You know how to do this. You know Iowa starts it. You know that you correct it. You know that you continue to go. And then my sweet state of South Carolina brings it home.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure that's going to happen there for you, Nikki. We'll see, though. We'll see. But, yeah, some Iowans took issue with her saying that Iowa makes the mistake and New Hampshire corrects it. 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Send your text to the Furman Ford text line. You can leave me a quick voice message. Send me an email directly, joey@joeyhudson.com. Let me ask you a question. Does it bother you to know that the Secretary of Defense was hospitalized last week for almost 5 days before we knew anything about it? Doesn't even appear that his boss knew. How does this happen? How does the Secretary of Defense be in the hospital for almost 5 days, and it appears that the President of the United States did not know that his Secretary of Defense was in the hospital? I'll give you the details in just a moment. First, let me tell you about my journey and my success with PhD weight loss and nutrition. 3 years ago, just over 3 years now, all of you who have listened to me for any period of time know that I lost 30 pounds pretty quickly, and I've been able to keep that off for over 3 years now. If you're listening today and you're still on the fence, maybe this is one of your New Year's resolutions, I have just one thing to say to you. PhD works. It just plain works, and it works for life. If you've been considering the program and you haven't made that call yet, let me encourage you to call, set up your consultation. You and your nutritionist can decide when the best time to start will be. I had my first consult in late June 3 years ago. We decided to start my program right after July the 4th. My friend Jolene started in February. She was remodeling her kitchen, but she felt like she needed to jump right in. She got started too. Listen, PhD just works, and you owe it to yourself to call, set up your appointment if you need to prioritize your health, or if that's one of your resolutions this year that you are going to prioritize your health. Call today, 864-252-4925. Get it on your calendar, 864-252-4925. You can also visit them online at myphdweightloss.com. PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, the official partner of the Clemson Tigers. So in a statement on Saturday, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin acknowledged that he could have better informed the public about his nearly 5-day hospital stay, during which time the White House and Congress were mostly kept in the dark. The Pentagon revealed Friday night that Austin was admitted to Walter Reed Hospital last Monday following an unspecified complication that arose from an elective medical procedure. We don't know what it is. We don't know what it involved. He was recovering on Saturday when White House National Security Council officials said that they were not notified of Austin's hospitalization until Thursday. So he went into the hospital on Monday. The NSC finds out about it on Thursday, while Congress and most of the Department of Defense leadership didn't know until Friday. This is the man who is charged with defending our country. Austin said in a statement on Saturday, "I recognize I could have done a better job ensuring the public was appropriately informed. I commit to doing better. But this is important to say. This was my medical procedure, and I take full responsibility for my decisions about disclosure," he said. Again, it's unclear exactly what triggered General Austin's emergency hospital stay. We don't know what this elective procedure was. We don't know to what degree Austin was aware of ongoing events. It's also unclear whether Austin's office intended to maintain a blackout on the communication over the events. The Pentagon's secrecy over the ordeal has sparked confusion, outrage among some DoD officials, legislators, reporters over at the Pentagon. The lack of transparency as conflict rages in the Middle East. and he's in the hospital. President Joe Biden's National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, was not made aware of Austin's absence from the Pentagon again until Thursday. We're told that Austin was in the hospital's intensive care unit for 4 days, according to NBC News, citing 2 administration officials. He remained in the hospital on Saturday. Pentagon Press Secretary Major General Pat Ryder said in a Friday statement, at all times the Deputy Secretary of Defense was prepared to act for and exercise the powers of the Secretary if required. Now, the Deputy Defense Secretary is Kathleen Hicks, who reportedly was on previously scheduled leave in Puerto Rico when Austin's emergency occurred. Again, this according to a defense official who talked with NBC News. The Pentagon second in command has maintained full communication with the DoD staff throughout and monitored DoD's day-to-day operations and conducted some routine business, the official said. Austin said that he expects to recover and looks forward to returning to the Pentagon soon. Had a lot of text messages on the Furman Ford text line over the weekend. Some of you took issue with Karine Jean-Pierre claiming that prescription drug prices have come down during Biden's time in office. Pete writes, Epstein made his money in finance and leveraged buyouts. My aunt met him in the early 90s. She said he was very handsome, intelligent, and a smooth talker. I had asked the question the other day about how Jeffrey Epstein had made his supposed millions and millions in wealth. Joanne in Traverse Rest said, I nearly spit out my coffee when I heard Nikki Haley say South Carolina will bring it home. She's delusional. Susan writes on the Furman text line, the Furman Ford text line, get a load of this, Joey. According to this Breitbart article, Nikki Haley confessed on PBS that she's a panderer. Nikki Haley says she will change personalities on campaign trail. Katrina writes, hi, Joey. As a former waitress, I tip for sit-down meals per quality of service. This is in response. We talked some, I think it was maybe on Thursday or Friday one, about tipping and tipping etiquette and how tipping has gotten out of hand. Katrina continued, if the food isn't great, I do not penalize the wait staff. I do leave a tip for takeout coffee, food, if the servers are pleasant and capable. I also tip my hairstylist, but I would not if she was the owner. We give tips for delivery service, i.e. appliance delivery, and remember those who deliver packages to us all year. I will never tip a self-check monitor or someone for doing what is part of their job or just because there's a tip jar present. Thank you for those guidelines, Katrina. It sounds pretty reasonable to me. On the Furman Ford tip text line, Bob in Little Rock. I was about to say tip line. The text line. Bob writes, Joey, when was the last time we turned on the mainstream news to hear a good report? Listening to them, you would decide evil has increased so much that there's no hope. The good news the media doesn't report on is for every increase in evil, God sends a corresponding increase in righteousness. So the next time we feel like there's no hope left, just do what Luke 21:28 says, look up and lift your heads because your redemption draweth near. Thank you, Bob. Appreciate that message. Faye writes on the Furman Ford text line, Joey, my dog has an insulated pen and it has a nice big house full of straw, but you know she loves her freedom to roam my yard so much that she wants to be out no matter what. Just wish my human friends love their freedom that much. Our leaders have real spiritual shortcomings. We really need to bend our knees praying for them that they'll find their way so our country can be saved. Bobby writes, good morning, Joey. Everyone is looking at Newsom or Michelle Obama to take over for Biden in the election closer to November. I heard yesterday that Nikki Haley has a lot of top Democrat donors backing her financially and that she'll be the Dems' Trojan horse back into the White House. Is this possible, and what's your thought on it? With all the cheating going on, it wouldn't surprise me at all. Take care. Bobby, I don't think Nikki Haley will be the Democrats' nominee. I don't think Nikki Haley will be the Republicans' nominee either. Our text of encouragement on the Furman Ford text line today, The will to win, the desire to succeed, the urge to reach your full potential, these are the keys that will unlock the door to personal excellence. God bless. Appreciate that text. Yours is welcome as well. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send your text to the Furman Ford text line. You can leave a voice message as well, and your emails directly to me, joey@joeyhudson.com, is welcome too. So what's it like to take a road trip in an electric vehicle? Jeff Flock with Fox Business put Joe Biden's electric vehicle mandate to the test, embarking on an 800-mile trip in a Tesla last Tuesday from Chicago to New York, documenting each charge along the way. I'll give you the details on that in just a moment. Portions of today's show brought to you by Discounted Appliance Warehouse. Whether you're replacing a broken appliance or maybe you're just upgrading your entire kitchen to look and feel more modern, the folks at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they're where you need to go to help you get this accomplished. When you're ready for your appliances, you don't want to have to wait weeks or months to start using them. And that's why at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, and their 11,000 square foot warehouse with over 1,500 appliances ready for you, you can buy it today and quite often use it the same day. They have expert installation, award-winning service department, and extended warranties. And Discounted Appliance Warehouse has you covered well after the sale because they make you part of the family. You're more than just a credit card swipe to Jeff and his team at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. They really do treat you like family. I know personally because I've been buying appliances from Discounted Appliance Warehouse for years now. They're very proud to offer Speed Queen, the only washer and dryers with manufacturer's warranties that covers parts and labor for up to 7 years. Discounted Appliance Warehouse, find them online as well at dawpickens.com, dawpickens.com. So it's kind of interesting. Jeff Flock with Fox Business went on an expedition as the White House and more than a dozen Democrat-run states are pushing to accelerate America's clean transportation future. The initiative has sparked concerns for long-distance drivers. I mean, think about it. Electric vehicles, maybe they work if you just drive around town. But will this change the family vacation? So Flock rented a Tesla Model Y. It supposedly has a range of 260 to 310 miles. It depends on the trim and some various factors, that's based on a full charge. It can be recharged at over 50,000 global superchargers, according to Tesla. As the Biden administration and a lot of the Democrat-leaning states pivot to clean energy, now remember some states are starting to kind of back. What was it? I think Connecticut recently, and then most recently Maine is starting to, because Maine had those real bad storms, had electrical outages, and it kind of, somebody finally realized, well, hey, if we were dependent on electric vehicles and our electricity has been out for days, what will we do for transportation? There's a lot of factors about concerning the range, battery duration, availability of charging stations between point A and point B. So after a day of driving, Flock provided an update on his journey to Stuart Varney of the Fox Business Channel, noting that he had charged the Tesla 4 times. He used the Tesla navigation system, which routes to Tesla supercharger stations. Flock said that this is good because it's a quicker charge than some of the other charging stations, but noted it does sometimes take you on a more circuitous route. He also shared his experience when the car nearly ran out of juice as he searched for a charging station. He warned, you got to be careful and plan to factor in charging during your long-distance travel. Here's just a portion of his journey as he reported to Stuart Varney.
Our own Jeff Flock started a road trip from Chicago to New York in an electric vehicle. He got a Tesla. He's been on the road now for 24 hours, so we're going to get an update. All right, Jeff, how many times did you have to recharge, and how did the recharging go?
I'm glad you didn't ask how many stops, because you have to subtract out the stops for a 65-year-old man's bladder. But if you just count the charging stops, that would be 4 so far. And all of them at Tesla. By the way, we've got another chase vehicle. I don't know if you're seeing it over there. Can you see me waving out the window? I don't know if you can, but there you go. We're driving safely, I assure you. The stops at 4 Tesla superchargers. They route you to the superchargers, which is good because it's a quicker charge. The problem is it sometimes takes you on a more circuitous route. It's not a direct route. Also, if you don't follow the Tesla, guide which supercharger to go to, like after dinner, we went out for dinner, and the dinner place was closed. We went a little farther. We almost ran out of charge. So last night when we parked the car, we had 38 miles remaining. This morning, didn't do anything overnight, 15 miles remaining. Now it says, go to the supercharger. We're going to have 2% of our charge left when we get to that supercharger. Yikes. Holy Land approaches. 3%. Oh, gosh, we could have gone another 15 feet. I said we reached the Holy Land. I think I meant the Promised Land. The Holy Land's kind of a mess right now. But you learn a lot on this. Stuart, as you know, I have a little bit of a bias. I like electric cars. It's been a fun drive, but that white knuckle situation with the, not knowing if you were going to run out of charge or not, people would have said, oh, I did it on purpose. Well, no, I didn't. But you got to be careful. You got to plan. I'm not a good planner. I'm a good person dealing with disaster when it impends, but I'm not a good planner. So you need to factor that in, sir.
All right, we're glad to hear you're still on the road and you're still doing okay, and we wish you well in that vehicle. We'll report again tomorrow, and hopefully you get here on time.
And we're told that the Fox Business reporter did, in fact, hit his mark on Friday. He arrived and shared his overall experience on Morning with Maria over the weekend. His biggest takeaway, he said, was do your homework and plan. He said the technology is cool, but you better figure it out and don't trust the range estimates. You heard in one of those instances just a minute ago where he said he literally had like 15 feet left on the charge. According to Tesla's navigation, the trip from Chicago to New York would be about 16 hours compared to probably about a 13-hour trip in a gas-powered vehicle. Throughout the trip, he made 8 stops to charge the car. Watch the efficiency drop after each stop, he said. Cost-wise, Flock explained that charging was similar to getting fuel, so you're not saving money, you're just saving the planet. He said it's a very valuable reality check. Interesting, huh? Love to get your feedback on the Furman Ford text line. Love to hear from some of you who maybe have electric vehicles. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined our mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails with the most up-to-date news. Thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Keep those comments coming to the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-5639. Keep your emails coming as well, joey@joeyhudson.com. We're back again tomorrow. Until then, remember, folks, God's got this. He's still in control.